Guess what? We got a sponsor. This video is brought to you by channel favorite, the Otaku Market, my personal fave place to get my BL fix. What they don't have, they will find for me, and they're fantastic. I will never endorse a company that I don't like, and these guys are rad. And they just got their first standalone webpage, theotakumarket.com. Still pretty fresh, but should start to have their whole catalog of anime, manga, figures, you name it, very soon. Till then, majority of their wares can be found via eBay. I'll link them in the description. They vend at conventions around the US all year, so if you see the hentai room, that'd be them. Go give them a poke. Tell them Peachy sent you. But with that said, on with today's video. As of the moment I started writing this video, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had just finished watching KinnPorsche, a Thai BL drama, on my Discord stream. Shout out to Leo and V, y'all a blessing, as well as Amaya and everyone else who popped in during our 2-day marathon. I hope you guys had the chance to finish it too, because it was so good. What got me into KinnPorsche was when one of my best friends and fellow BL-loving degenerates tipped me off about it. They were already into the series and hyperventilated a bit when the show came out. It went through some stuff before it got released. It took a minute and a few hiccups for it to be made, but here it is in its 14-episode glory, ready to be binged via iQIYI. My thoughts on today's hated character are based solely on the show's version of him. I haven't read the book, which ironically enough is being translated into English by the actor who plays him, Bible. Yes, that is his name. I love it. Moving on. Most of my best ideas come spur of the moment, and holy fuck was this one of them. We were right at the end of the stream, and I'm like, I gotta write a video. And I did. Here we are. So, quick rundown on what this series of videos is going to be like. I have a panel called I Love That Character You Hate. The first version of it, a virtual panel, is posted to my FujoCon playlist. In that panel, I basically break down character tropes and explain them from the viewpoint of a very traumatized and still in therapy individual. That'd be me. During my years of public speaking, I kind of figured out that it was cathartic for me to openly discuss my mental health struggles. I do hope being so open about it will help others who aren't able to voice them as loud. This by no means implies that there aren't some garbage characters out there that I just simp for the sake of it. Those exist too. But my own personal fascination with problematic characters comes from a place of trauma and mental instability. So the vast majority of these videos will stay on that theme. I go over all of this in my panel, but to summarize, I really relate hard to villains, misunderstood characters, or just characters that their respective fandoms have seemed to hate in general. If you hated them and wanted to set them on fire, they were most likely my favorite. Not every time. There are quite a few who are just pure garbage, but I'm talking about the ones that people seem to write off. My panel on this subject has done absurdly well, so I decided to make it its own thing. I basically have a whole character analysis per episode, where I just info dump to my heart's content. Could be 15 minutes, could be 2 hours, you never know with me. Ironically enough, I think this one's gonna go 45 to an hour. We'll see. I actually cut a lot of this script, like a lot. It was about 25 pages long, and now it's not. This series will not be for the faint of heart. We're gonna be dark in here, because that's the kind of headspace you need to understand to see where I'm coming from with some of these characters. I will always have content warnings shown before each episode, like I did with this one. I don't want anyone to get too deep into something that could seriously trigger them. My first character I want to cover in this series is the most hated from the show I just finished, Vegas from KinnPorsche the series. Yet again, content warnings, last chance to escape. Spoilers everywhere, by the way. I'm basically gonna spoil the entire second half of Vegas' storyline. Not the whole show worth of spoilers, because oh buddy, that'd be a feat. But I am going to spoil a significant chunk of it. I'm gonna cover Vegas, his dad and family, his love interest Pete, and a side character who is imperative to Vegas's character arc. But I won't drop names because, oh my god, huge main plot spoiler, you need to experience that twist yourself, holy fuck. Whew, buddy. It's hard to go to bat for these characters without discussing the inner workings of the character itself and the plot that surrounds them, so I basically just go through literally everything and give my little hot takes. So, with that said, here we go. 2 reasons why I figured I'd end up falling for him. Firstly, I'm a member of the kink community, BDSM and its sundry dynamics to be specific. And Vegas is let's say, to put it lightly, and I mean very lightly, he's into bondage. Consent is imperative to real-life BDSM, and Vegas doesn't exactly follow that rule very well. So, in that regard, I do not condone the actions of this motherfucker by a long shot. Fuck, dude, that is not how belts work. Is it made of blades, Vegas? Jesus Christ, you're gonna drown him now? Regardless of that, I was still on the edge of my seat because it's fiction. Please let me exist. Secondly, so many people hate him. As soon as his first really questionable episode dropped that involved torturing his soon-to-be love interest, the squishy angel known as Pete, the English-speaking side of Thai BL internet lost its goddamn mind. Not entirely certain how everyone else stomached him, but over here... Ooh, sweet Jesus. This is a mafia drama. Did you not expect some level of problematic? Were you not certain about what you signed up for? None of these couples are entirely innocent. Every one of them has faults in some way. Vegas Pete is the darkest though, I will give you that, and I mean, I don't fully blame you. Vegas is not only straight up unhinged, but absurdly manipulative. But I swear to you, under all those layers is an extremely devoted man who never in his life understood anything outside of what his father told him. He was so brainwashed and broken, and unfortunately, it took a lot of violence and self-loathing before he could see that his whole worldview was complete bullshit. Again, I've only seen the drama, so I'm sure the novel version is, much worse. But based off what I saw of him in the show, holy fuck dude, I was sobbing. Let me explain. Some context about myself and where I'm coming from. I have a very complicated relationship with my mother. She is a textbook narcissist. Does that make her a bad person? Not entirely, but there are so many things that she will never understand, or even make an attempt at understanding. A lot of her problem stems from her own trauma, and a big chunk of it is undiagnosed mental disorder related. Stuff I, also inherited. Difference being, I am not a narcissist. God, that's hard to say. Fuck. I have infinitely more self-awareness than she will ever possess. This makes it incredibly hard to cut her off completely, despite the abuse, both from my childhood to shit she still does now. My entire existence was built around what my mother found acceptable. I knew where the line was, and I did my best to never cross that. If she told me off, I deserved it. If I wasn't up to where I needed to be, it was my own fault and I needed to work harder. Nothing was wrong with me mentally. I was just stupid, lazy, selfish. I never gave a fuck. All I ever did was mooch off others and disappoint people. When I did what she wanted correctly, in a fashion that was acceptable to her, she'd occasionally throw me a bone, and honestly, I had a very tight kinship with her. We shared a lot of struggles. I was the only person she had for a time, and I took my job seriously. There are so many things we shared when I was a kid that have stuck with me. I've always been a mama's child, and despite everything, still kind of am. I wanted to be what she wanted so bad. She was never completely awful. She'd saw me sometimes, made me feel like she cared past our normal sarcastic conversations and shit talking. That was enough for me. I went to bat for her so many times. They just didn't understand her like I did. So many of the things I just mapped out about myself and my situation apply to the one that Vegas is in. He has been raised to not only be his dad's personal crony, but also his punching bag. He's been conditioned into believing that he's too dumb to make decisions on his own. That whatever it is that he does is only acceptable if it's done in the exact way that was scripted for him. There's a lot of push and pull. Vegas does something right, he's temporarily the good son. Vegas fucks up and the whole fucking world is collapsing and it's his fault. His dad allows him to live a life of luxury, money, motorcycles, personal sex dungeon, everything he's ever wanted is given. So, what could he possibly need past that? Why can't he do the simplest fucking thing? I will show you affection, but only when warranted. You have to earn it. Nothing is yours. Nobody is going to deal with you like I do. Why do you have to be such a failure? Every fuck up you have affects me and everyone else around you. You're making everyone's life harder by being a giant screw up. You're not worthy of being my child. Do better. God, that's relatable. My mom's a different breed of this. You know, not a fucking trigger-happy mafia leader, but the themes are all there. There were so many instances in this show where I saw my mother in Vegas's dad, and it sucked. Bible, the actor I mentioned earlier who plays him in the drama, does such a spot-on job at conveying the self-loathing that comes with mental abuse without even talking. His mannerisms, his facial expression, his attitude, all changes the second his father enters a room. He's so devoted, he just wants to be what his father tells him to be. He wants to please him so bad, and it rarely happens. The look of absolute disgust and pain in his face when his dad says awful shit to him, or worse, hits him, is so relatable. His world started and ended with what his dad needed of him. That's it. Nothing else mattered. He is completely blind to all of the people around him who care. When Vegas doesn't complete a given mission in a fashion that his father found acceptable, he is pissed as fuck, but at the same time sends him to a safe house where he can be protected. Again, push and pull. Anytime his dad speaks to him in literally any scene, even when it's threatening, Vegas consistently remains subservient. He lets him beat him. He lets him tell him how shit he is because he feels like he deserves it. He is shit. What use has he ever been other than being a constant burden upon the one person that he wants validation from? Insert Pete. Okay, so that huge spoiler I was talking about in the intro, well, Vegas was in an intimate relationship with one of the most fucked up side characters in this whole damn show. Dude kissed the ground Vegas walked on. Vegas, however, was only using him for who he knew in the mob. He had zero romantic interest. He was just another pawn, aiding him in his dad's scheme. He really knows how to play the game, and this side character fell for it so hard. And therefore, his particular breed of mentally unstable was used to further whatever Vegas wanted when he wanted it, in exchange for his attention and love. Vegas couldn't give less of a shit. People are just tools for him to utilize when he needs them and throws them out when he's done. Exactly like Daddy. The way he treats this particular character, the dismissiveness, the lack of empathy, the straight up brutality of how they break up, and I say break up lightly, ooh buddy, is all so adjacent to how Pete ends up being treated. Side character dude never questioned his bullshit. He enjoyed it. He fed the monster. That is not what Vegas needed. But oh buddy, does Pete challenge damn near everything that Vegas has ever done. Vegas gets a kick out of being in control because he's never felt like he was, and when he hurts people and inevitably breaks them, it's like a sick form of validation. Having someone beg you for something instead of you being the one begging is cathartic as fuck. Being in complete control of a situation, being listened to in exchange for reward, being the one who has the upper hand, it gives him what he can't get in the real world. He knows it's all fake, he knows he's a bastard for hurting them, but he has zero concept of love or empathy outside of how his dad acts. That's his blueprint. And no one ever questioned him, just took him at face value. So we're gonna take all of these feelings and shove them in our back pocket and pretend they don't exist. I need to own a room upon entering it. I know I'm a piece of shit. It's what's expected of me. It's the only thing I'm good at. It's the only expectation that I can fulfill. I'm a heartless piece of garbage, so what's the harm? Nobody gives a shit anyway. It was never about me. Nobody cares about me. I'm not worthy of that in the first place. I have a role to play, one that I'm proficient at, so I'm gonna do that. So, future love interest Pete is captured for questioning by Vegas's side of the mob. Being the kinky bastard he is, he has interesting ways of torturing people into talking. Again, I say BDSM lightly. Not a singular one of these works on Pete. Pete is so pure and so loyal to both his blood and mafia families that he'd sacrifice anything to keep them out of harm's way, and Vegas is fucking unhinged and a huge threat. Keeping him distracted and out of the picture will keep his people safe, and he does just that. He's not letting Vegas fuck with his family, so when Vegas is sent to a safe house, he takes his new pet with him. He does some vile shit to Pete. Keeps him handcuffed, chained, isolated in a room that only he can go into, and Pete never begs him. Just gets angry and asks him why. Just fucking kill me already, this is stupid. But Vegas is hooked on him now. He can't break this one. And in between periods of Vegas being an asshole, he starts to show subtle signs of humanity. He takes out his anger towards himself out on Pete, only for Pete to be like, why though? And nobody's ever asked him that. After getting bitched out by his father for the 1000th time over shit that was completely out of his control, he goes to Pete like, hey, guess what? I'm a fucking moron again. You gonna laugh, right? 'Cause, you know, fuck me. But Pete doesn't respond because he's passed out. Vegas beat him to the point of blood the day previous, and on top of that, tased the shit out of him. And, what do you know? He got an infection and passed the fuck out. Vegas panics, and if we're being honest, is probably not even certain why he's panicking. But knowing he has to fix it, he can fix it. His one outlet is not about to leave him. He takes care of Pete, bandages him up, convinces him that the meds aren't poisoned, and over time, Pete starts noticing a pattern. Vegas wants to be useful. He wants to help, but nobody ever lets him. He's never allowed to make his own choices. And with nothing else better to do, Pete starts poking. After getting patched up, Vegas sits with him for a while, like he was unsure of what to do and Pete made him feel better, so he just chills in the room with him. Being the pure summer flower that he is, Pete asks him point blank, what happened to you? Vegas is visually weirded out at first, but gives in, 'cause let's be honest, he likes the attention, and proceeds to explain that basically he's shit at everything. He can't be trusted with literally anything. He just constantly fucks people over and is a giant disappointment. He talks about how he's constantly pitted against Ken, the other mob leader's son, and how he'll never be better. To which Pete's like, why do you need to be? Pete goes on to explain how his own dad beat him and took out his anger and failures on his son. Pete explains that even when he did succeed, he still got beaten. They don't beat us because we suck. They beat us because they suck. This is probably Vegas's first epiphany moment. Pete's like, dude, your dad is an asshole and you don't have to take that. Him being a shithead is not reflective of your own personal worth. You can exist outside of your father's wants. Dude, fucking relatable. I'm going through something similar right now. It's so hard to be literally anything other than what you're told you're supposed to be. You're conditioned to be in this headspace of nothing I ever do will ever be right. You don't really think for yourself, not completely. You're playing a role that was set up for you. And everything you do needs to fit in this set of puzzle pieces. And if it doesn't, oh buddy, your life is gonna suck. Vegas is starting to realize that he's not as helpless as he's always felt, and that role does not need to be played. He can change, and should. He knows it. He's always known it. He just shoved it down and pretended it didn't exist. All of this, out of experience, is just a hard concept to wrap your mind around at first. In the following days after this whole conversation, Vegas significantly softens. He starts to figure out that if he treats Pete right, he'll reciprocate. He listens when Vegas talks, and not because of who he is or because he feels threatened, but because Pete's genuinely interested. They have fairly normal conversations, and Vegas is starting to like that. To someone who's been following a script for so long, it's novel to just be listened to, or have someone just talk to you just because they want to, not because they need anything. Out of experience, what royally sucks about all of this, while you're on the road to recovery, relapse is inevitable. Example being, Vegas has a pet hedgehog, who he spoils rotten, and also keeps in the same room he has Pete in. The symbolism is not lost on me. There is a glaring difference between how he treats animals, who will always listen to him and stay loyal, to how he treats a person. It's very telling. Alongside those feelings, the main reason behind him being so attached to this hedgehog, his dad is the one who gave it to him. He gave him quite a few, and this is the last one. When the hedgehog gets sick, Vegas panics. I see a lot of signals in him that leads me to believe that he struggles with a mild garden variety of age regression. It's something that I have also dealt with. When you weren't allowed certain emotions as a child, but then reach a place later in life where you feel comfortable enough in doing so, you regress to that same innocent, childlike state of being when under distress. You want to cry, throw a tantrum, get attention. You want someone to fucking notice you and take care of it. You want someone to pay attention to you and tell you that you're gonna be okay. This is all shit that we didn't have as children, stuff we couldn't act upon during the age in which it was socially appropriate. Sometimes regression doesn't even involve other people, but in Vegas's case, it definitely does. The last thing he wants is to be alone. He's always alone. Please help. I need you. Don't leave me. He loved that hedgehog, and he can't help it when it's sick. In his panic, he leaves with it and ends up leaving the handcuff key right fucking next to Pete. Pete, because he's not entirely dumb, makes a break for it, but upon seeing Vegas just sitting in the grass holding his frickin' hedgehog sobbing, he basically has a, oh for fuck's sake moment, and goes to sit with him. Because who the fuck is going to be there for this idiot if I'm not? That's my idiot now. Fuck. Pete is pretty good at picking up on what Vegas needs when he needs it. He's just the right amount of close, but not too close. Don't want to freak him out. But again, relapse is inevitable, and this ends up backfiring later. Upon seeing Pete, out of his little prison and chilling in the grass with him, Vegas is visibly in shock, but lets himself have the moment. Pete helps him bury his now passed away pet and gets him back into the house. Vegas can't fucking process what just happened. Why would you choose to stay around me when you don't have to? What's the catch? Vegas goes full meltdown, regressing back to his normal persona of, I'm a big baddie, fight me, you don't want this, are you fucking stupid? And when Pete's just not affected and does not give in to his bullshit, Vegas just walks away. saying something along the lines of, "You're no fun anyway," which, you know, is just an excuse. He doesn't want to hurt him. Now it's Pete's turn to snap. Pete, knowing full well that Vegas is just reverting back to what's comfortable for him because dealing with emotions is hard, pulls him back in by kissing him. Insert their first sex scene. Given the circumstances, it's surprisingly consensual. Pete even initiates Vegas tying him up because he probably realizes that that's what he needs to stay chill, and let's be honest here, Pete's not visibly mad about it. They have a relatively normal first time. Vegas is super soft with him, and the whole thing was very loving and attentive. They just chill afterwards, both of them trying to process what had just happened, but for that moment, they were both really happy. After they did the do, Vegas continues to try to keep up with Pete, learning that Pete digs food, so he learns how to make new stuff for him, only for his dad to once again show up out of the blue and ruin everything. After his dad tells him off about the latest bullshit, Vegas, with his newfound self-worth, makes the mistake of questioning his father, and ho buddy, do I feel you there. To which his father slaps the fuck out of him and reminds him that he's useless and his opinion doesn't matter. He should keep his mouth shut. Vegas returns to Pete. Pete's like, "What the fuck happened to you?" And he puts the pieces together on his own and tells Vegas, again, you don't have to take that shit. You have alternatives. You could leave. Vegas at this point is not ready to deal with those emotions, and once again regresses back to his asshole self. You don't fucking know, and you don't know my dad, and don't just fucking assume you know me either. Ugh, I do this shit too. Despite me becoming incredibly more self-aware about my situation, I cannot stand people trying to tell me how I should deal with it. Did I fucking ask you? You don't know. It's a stress response. We're conditioned to protect these shitty people, despite how they treat us. And it makes leaving them so hard. Vegas, like an idiot, puts his hands on Pete, and Pete has clearly had enough of Vegas's flip-flopping. And if there is one side that he's going to assume is Vegas's real and true personality, it's going to be the one that he sees most often. That one being the asshole. So Pete just starts yelling at him. Just fucking kill me. I've got nothing left. Your bitch ass took it all away. If you're gonna take me out, just fucking do it. Pete flings all the bullshit that Vegas vents about right back at him, telling him it doesn't matter if he dies. He's alone and useless. Just do it already. If you don't, I will. This is all shit that Vegas has said himself, shit that he feels. He just made another one of him, and he did it to his favorite person. This snaps Vegas out of his fit, and we're panicking again. He has zero self-control over himself, and any time one of his triggers is set off, he'll immediately switch to defense mode. But upon seeing Pete break afterwards, goes, wait, no, I didn't want that. Please don't be sad. Please don't do this. I have to fix it. He's gonna leave me. He completely breaks down, repeatedly apologizing, begging Pete not to leave him, but sadly, it's not that easy. You cannot just constantly keep doing these 180s to people. Something had to give. After convincing Vegas to take his handcuff off, because how the fuck am I supposed to trust you when you refuse to trust me, he knocks Vegas out and leaves. Pete is so torn. Pete is aware of how Vegas is, and at this point he's had a front row view of quite a few Vegas brand mood swings. But he's also aware that feeding his whims is not helping him. Yes, I care about you, and I want you to change and take care of yourself. I can see a sweet, loyal, caring person under all of your 10,000 layers of trauma and bullshittery. But I also will not excuse your bullshit. You know better. I've seen it. You need to learn that you can't just "I'm sorry" away every time you snap at me. That's not how this is going to work. I will not be your punching bag. Do not turn into your father. I cannot trust you until you trust me. I cannot help you until you're willing to listen. It's hard for me to love you when you consistently break my trust in you and hurt me. On top of all of those feelings, it's absurdly hard to stomach falling in love with your captor. Vegas and Pete ended up stumbling into each other by accident. This isn't some guy he met at a bar. This is one of the most dangerous dudes in their section of the mafia, and he did some awful shit. Pete flips back and forth a lot, but in the end, he can't help but care about him. And it's because of that care that he cannot stay. After Pete leaves, Vegas keeps his distance, and Pete never sells him out or tells anyone that it was Vegas that hurt him. People fucking assume, but Pete never says it. When pressed about it, he absolutely refuses to talk shit about Vegas. He just wants to be left alone about it. Vegas shows up briefly after a bit. Pete about kills him, but Vegas just takes it, telling him to just shoot him. He apologizes again, and Pete breaks down. They have a moment, but Vegas knows it's not really over, and he doesn't want to hurt him again. If he's learned literally anything about this process, he currently cannot trust himself to not hurt him again. He leaves and starts protecting Pete from the sidelines. He tries to do things that would be what Pete would want him to do, but in the end, at least in the show, he ends up on his dad's side anyway? I'm mildly confused about this whole scene, to be honest. He was doing so fucking good, and it felt very out of character. It felt like he'd finally reached a point where he was distancing himself from his dad and doing what he wanted instead of what was expected of him. But here we are, shooting up the rival mob with Daddy. But where there is rival mob, there is Pete. When given the opportunity, Pete refuses to kill Vegas, even fakes it to get other mob members to fuck off and let him handle it. He then proceeds to beat the shit out of Vegas, which honestly was deserved. And Vegas takes it. He eventually, once he'd had enough I guess, tells Pete, if anyone is going to kill me today, can it please be you? Pete breaks more than he already was at this point, and Vegas tells him that he loves him, before pushing him away to, I'm assuming, go fuck some more shit up with Daddy. Though, possibly also wreck Daddy? Because I am not convinced he was completely on his dad's side after all that emotional growth. Y'all can fight me. Main plot shit goes down, and Daddy gets killed via a real brutal headshot. Vegas finds them, sees Dad dead on the ground, and simply cannot compute. Despite all of the bullshit, all the shit talking, all the neglect and abuse, he still had such an immense attachment to his father. That was his reason for living for so fucking long. What is the point anymore? I can't do anything for you when you're dead. What do I do now? You're really gonna leave me too. Vegas completely loses it. I saw this scene through the lens of someone who was freshly grieving the loss of someone they thought would forever be on their team and chose not to be. I relapse all the time. I'll wake up and remember what I did and have to re-go through the process of knowing that no matter what I say, it will never matter. She is not capable of addressing the issues that I needed fleshed out for me. She will never give me closure. Just ignore me. Tell me to get over it and move on. Or tell me how awful and delusional I am. If I was put in Vegas's situation, I definitely would have had a similar reaction. Pete sees this whole scene go down. Vegas runs out of the room, and Pete, right then and there, resigns from his mob family. He made his choice, and it was Vegas. By the time Pete catches up to him, Vegas is about to commit suicide, to which Pete obviously steps in and tries to talk him out of it. Vegas has really had enough of his own bullshit and is ready for it to be over. He keeps repeating shit like, I have no one now. I've got nobody. Everybody's gone. They all left me. I am what they said. And Pete's like, I'm right here. When Vegas replies to that with, You could just have someone else. Pete immediately responds, I don't want someone else. I want you. Why the fuck did you confess to me if you were just gonna do this shit? The consistency of what Pete always says when Vegas is peak breakdown sticks, and Vegas is convinced to stop, turn around, and listen to Pete. If only for a brief moment he relaxes, only for a guard to show up out of fucking nowhere and shoot him. Pete loses his fucking mind, kills the guard, and based off later scenes, I can only assume takes his man to go get help. This shit absolutely destroyed me. I thought he was dead, because that's entirely plausible. I've seen it happen before. If a character is what the creator feels is too far gone and not capable of change, kill them off. They had just chose each other only for Vegas to die the literal second that he realizes that somebody genuinely, authentically cares about him. I've seen tweets of people wishing he died. And while I've never reached Vegas's level of garbage, he was absurdly relatable for me the entire show. It was like looking at an escalated version of myself. Seeing people write him off as just a villain, incapable or worthy of a redemption arc, makes people like me feel like we don't either. I've never done the horrific shit that Vegas did while manic, but I also wasn't the easiest human to deal with for a long time. I was given the opportunity to be who I wanted to be deep down, but never let myself. Vegas was about to get that, and you're telling me he deserved to die? Okay, thanks for that. Luckily, I have come a long way, and I'm on enough medication now to not let that bother me. Because, oh yeah, fuck you! Your trauma is just as valid as mine is. You're allowed to hate him, and I'm allowed to put him in a blanket burrito and feed him ginger snaps and Capri Sun. This is fiction. Let me live my life. I spent basically the whole end of the show seething, while the other couples are figuring their lives out and being all cute and shit. I cannot fucking focus on them. I'm not over it. How are you expecting me to be okay right now? On top of thinking Vegas was dead, I could not get over Bible's acting in that scene. It was so incredibly real, to the point that it broke me to watch. So yeah, I was not okay, and could not fully take in the absolute fluff of Ken and Porsche starting their life together, because I was a bit broken. My stream friends checked up on me when I went MIA in the chat, so I appreciated them greatly. But then, a light at the end of the tunnel presents itself. I did not catch this the first time. My friends had to point it out and we had to go back so I could, throw things. But they offhandedly mention, mid-scene, that Pete is taking care of Vegas. At this point, I'm like, I swear to God, if you don't give them an end scene, I'm going to riot. They wait till after the fucking credits before showing me what happened with them. I was pissed, yet overjoyed at the same time. In said scene, Pete takes care of Vegas, who's still recovering from being shot like 5 fucking times, as well as taking care of Vegas's brother. They're chilling in the hospital room with him, and Vegas is like, why are you still here? If you leave, it's fine. I don't want to be your burden too. And Pete, who is used to this at this point, goes, I'm gonna do what I want. Vegas, who is tearing up at this point because, oh my God, for someone capable of a multitude of fucking unspeakable actions, is actually a huge fucking softie, replies with something along the lines of, you are not my pet anymore. You're the most important person to me. Meaning, I'm choosing to treat you as a human because you deserve that, and I need to learn how to be better. His little brother wakes up and catches them making out, and they all lay in bed together and have a cute little family moment in scene. Oh my fucking God! I was pretty fucking pleased with that. That was nice. I felt represented and seen. Bible did such a great fucking job. I was glued to the screen every scene he was in. I really hope that he does more dramas because, oh my fucking god, this is your first drama. You're so perfect. I know you're on YouTube and speak fluent English and you'll never fucking see my dumb little video, but holy crap, nobody could have played Vegas better than you. You sold him so hard. Oh my god. Somebody, please cast him in more shit. Oh, Jesus, give him a lead BL ship. I'll spit blood. I actually kind of feel bad that I fell for Vegas so hard because I'm a giant Jeff simp, and while I loved his role too, my Discord stream could assure you I lost my shit every time he was on screen. Fuck, his solo beat 'em up scene towards the end was so fucking perfect. Holy shit, the cigarette afterwards. I'm dead. Do more action shit, Jeff. You were so good. I'm dying. Ugh. I love the rest of you too, but fuck. I'm also a pretty big fan of Perth, and watching him get violently stabbed was an experience, much less seeing him fucking decapitated. I wasn't ready. I don't think I'd ever have been ready for that. Wow. Oh, buddy. I digress. Back on topic. If none of that did anything for you, and you still hate him, this series, both the show and this video that you're watching right now, wasn't for you in the first place. No matter what I explain, examples I give, shit I stir, you will never see my side. Antis will always be antis. Many have their reasons, and y'all valid, but you really need to let the rest of us live. The absolute vitriol posted about Vegas, much less other characters in the show, is absolutely insane. Like I said in the beginning, you signed up for this when you chose to watch a mafia drama. Come on now. Am I dismissing everything that Vegas has done? Abso-fucking-lutely not. That is not the point. Yes, he's done some seriously awful shit and given less than a singular fuck about it. But if someone starts to turn that around and you learn the whys behind the actions, is letting these characters have redemption arcs that fucking hard for you? People change. Again, does not excuse their actions. Part of redeeming yourself is atoning for what you did and accepting that not everyone has to forgive you. You have to live with what you've done. Period. Woo! One video down. God knows how many to go. I have an absolute shit ton of characters hated by fandoms, not all of them villains, that I could write a whole damn thesis on. So, if this ends up being a thing some of y'all like, I'll probably keep making them, and even if you don't and the whole thing flops, being able to validate even one person's experience will make all of this worth it for me. I also just need to word vomit about stuff sometimes. Feel free to throw your own venting in the comments, or you can hop on my Discord. I have a nice little family of friends growing there, and we'd be happy to have you. In the meantime, make sure you check out my sponsor, the Otaku Market. Nothing Thai so far. I'm not even sure if he can get Thai merchandise. I would have to talk to him. Something to ponder about. But check out their collection of goodies they do have. Plenty of other snazzy things to choose from. Links are in the description. But till next time, you're valid. I see you. Have a great day.